Infinite sounds means that you can grant yourself the freedom to explore music in infinite ways. When you can put aside labels and forget labels and what is typical, you kind of grant yourself freedom to explore music and the world around you with a greater curiosity that not everybody allows themselves to find. My name is Lindsey Wiehl, and I play the bassoon. I grew up in upstate New York, which is very different from New York City. It takes about 4 hours to get to the city, and in upstate New York, we have lots of lakes, mountains, trails, paths, woods, and that was more so my home. A lot of people don't understand that when I say I'm from New York, but believe me, I'm pretty quick to clarify. A lot of my musical inspiration came from my family, who was really musical. My mom was a music teacher, and my dad had studied music and had done some teaching too. And he also had kind of an audio production focus when he was in school in the 70s, which was an awesome time to be in music production. And I feel like influences from them have really shaped my musical experience, both in music education, performance, audio, and eventually composition. Now it's a big mix of what I do. So, of course, yes, I was introduced to music pretty early on through my family. And my first instrument was the flute. I'd been bugging my mom to let me play the flute when I was about 5. And of course she let me. But when it was time to pick an instrument at school, I picked the double bass, which I think it was a full-size bass in an elementary school, so I had to step on a steppy stool to get to the fingers that I needed on the bass. And I kept getting feedback from the audience like, "Oh, you're so cute." And of course, I'm not cute. I'm a serious musical performer. So I ended up switching to the bassoon, and no one has ever said, "Wow, what a cute bassoonist" ever again. And I'm okay with that. I really enjoy teaching music because I have a lot of creative options in teaching. Creativity within instruction is totally encouraged, and I often at the college level have students that really want to create music and to perform. That's what makes our hearts sparkle. So I love breaking rules in music. I love dissonance and stretching boundaries. And I teach music theory 3 and 4, which is kind of when we get to break all of those rules that we learn early on. And that's really fun for me. So that might be my most favorite part about teaching music. Through teaching music, I find that I'm working a lot more with the vulnerability of students. Students, they come and go into my classroom, and I have several different students with very different personalities and backgrounds and demons and experiences in their lives. And you really have to work with them as students and as people with full lives behind and ahead of them before you get to work with them as performers. And I think of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how important it is to make sure that the student feels safe. The student is getting their needs met before learning all the extra wonderful, good musical stuff. And while I might want to spend time on one aspect of music, maybe that's not what the student needs at that time. And while that's important in all sorts of subjects, I find in music where we're being so vulnerable and so intimate with our craft, it ends up being even more important. I think one of my most valuable lessons that I've learned through teaching and performing is learning through play. Just the value of having fun while you're trying to learn something, making something into a game, or finding a fun way to interact with what you're learning can be so motivating and so much less frustrating for me. And it really helps to jumpstart my creativity within a practice session or a project or a composition. So also through composing, I've learned about giving a piece justice when I'm performing it. My viewpoint has kind of changed as I've started composing some more about what it means to be a performer. And throughout that process, I've begun to learn about how to share vulnerability and how tricky that can be and how much of a growing experience it can be. And I'm still learning that. Music education is important to my local community because everything is important to my local community. I live in semi-rural North Dakota, and it's winter from November through April. We have long stretches of blizzards and big piles of snow. And community is really important in a place where you are tempted to stay inside most of the time. Any reason to have a sense of community and any reason to come together and leave your home is part of what helps keep you healthy in a really long winter. So any events that happen are really important to the whole community. Music education is important because you don't know what you don't know. Starting learning music can, of course, be a great way to develop focus and a great way to develop grit, two very, very important skills for anything you end up doing. But sometimes you don't know what you're passionate about until you're introduced. So music education might be the first time that a student is introduced to music, or that a person, even an adult, is introduced to music in an educational capacity. So until you're introduced, you might never know that there is a passion lying there or an interest that can be fed. The music classroom is a place to grow and explore passion. And I think that's the case about a math classroom and a science classroom and an arts classroom and sports teams, etc. And I believe that if you're following your passion and doing what you love, you're probably doing your best in making the world a better place. I think that everybody's relationship with music is a little bit different, but whether it be music or science or business, if you can find something that energizes you and makes you feel like this is what I love doing, whether it be for money or not, try to feed into that and allow yourself extra time for that, because it'll change the way that you live every day.